Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the new generation took over the WWF. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
This is for all you plebeians out there. Remember, a computer society is a defunct society mentally.
Joe Gimateo.
You see, they call this one the all-over t-shirt because the print is all over.
No. There has to be some other reason. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one episode of Raw at a time. But first, a quick shout out and thank you to our new downloads and new listeners in Texas. Yeehaw. God damn it, you cowboys. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you guys can contact us and chime in on what you think of the general apparel of the Smoking Guns. Said before by Shawn Michaels, a San Antonio native, that, what did he call them? Drugstore cowboys or Kmart cowboys?
A couple different things. The drugstore, Ricksaw cowboys.
But yeah, hit us up on social media there and tell us what you think of the Smoking Guns. I'm genuinely curious to hear what an authentic cowboy thinks of them and the whole gimmick.
Well, they are real rodeo guys.
They are. That is true. That is true.
You should see Bart ride a bull.
That's right.
Thank you also just to all of our listeners everywhere in general. We've had a huge surge in downloads for August. Ryan, you were saying that we are literally up by hundreds of downloads. Is that correct?
That is correct. Very strong month for us. Thank you for all the new listeners out there.
Yes, thank you all to our listeners at home and abroad. But in this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on May 22nd, 1995. This Raw was recorded at the Broome County Arena in Binghamton, New York, and features Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
Let's get it on.
Yes.
All right, then let's get into it. For our intro tonight, the entire intro is basically going to lay out the championship story thus far. The $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, was behind it all along when, in an effort to get to Diesel, DiBiase planted Sid as Shawn Michaels' bodyguard, therefore ensuring that Diesel would notice when Sid eventually attempted to murder Shawn Michaels. We are reminded of the match happening tonight with Shawn Michaels versus King Kong Bundy. Bundy being there to finish what Sid started. And that is going to be a King of the Ring qualifying match. Vince is roaring jovially. We are live for now as we get reminded again about the King Kong Bundy match. And to add to the anticipation, guys, it's our lucky fucking night. We're also going to see the Allied Powers in action. The Hitman, Bret Hart, is also present tonight, but not in a match. And I can't wait to talk about that with you. With all of that, we're going to go into our first match of the night. Razor Ramon defeats Mike Bell by pinfall in 4 minutes and 17 seconds. Razor brings, and I quote, Caribbean legend Savio Vega with him as he comes out. Mike Bell's already in the ring. I didn't really find too many things to note here, and I mean, I'm not saying that as a negative. I really liked the initial selling at the beginning of the match. Both Razor and Mike Bell were hamming it up, but in a very good way. Man, that one moment where Razor just slaps the shit out of Mike Bell after Bell attempts an eye poke was fantastic. And this match even ends with a little bit of a heel move from Razor, pinning Bell with a boot on the chest. But overall, I mean, this match was really good for a jobber match. I personally was engaged and entertained the entire time. Joe, what did you think of this match?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it was a jobber match, but it was a long... What was the time?
4:17.
Which, is probably twice as long or more as a normal jobber match. So I noticed that. And the slapping, the chopping was just brutal. I mean, Mike Bell took a fucking beating in this match, so that was pretty funny. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good match to start off the show.
Complete agreement here. It started out with Mike Bell kind of first slapping Razor when he was in the corner, and then Razor just gives him that look.
Yeah.
2 seconds after that, Mike Bell hits Razor to the ground again, and he starts flexing around the ring. Yeah. And it was just great. I mean, this is exactly what you want to see out of a jobber, him just really trying to play it up for the crowd in the ring and get him involved. And I thought Mike Bell did an excellent job of that. I've mentioned it before, how great it is to see his growth as a jobber from the first time we saw him, where he was pretty sloppy, and he's just been getting better and better. And on top of it, his physique has been getting better too. He's in much, much better shape than he was when we seen him a year and a half, 2 years ago. You said there's not much to talk about, and it's true. I mean, there was nothing spectacular in this match that you're going to remember come next week, but this was just a very good, entertaining enhancement match. It did exactly what it should have done.
Yeah, completely agreed. And just, again, I mean, I know this is kind of redundant at this point, but to be clear, there was nothing, and I mean nothing, negative about this match from start to finish, bell to bell. This was an excellent match. It's just, aside from those, in my personal opinion, aside from those slaps and those chops, there's just nothing really to majorly note about it, And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's kind of odd for Razor, I think, because usually there's at least something that he does that really stands out. Maybe in this case it is those chops, but yeah, excellent match.
There is one thing that stood out to me, though, that didn't really come from Mike Bell or Razor Ramon. It was towards the beginning. Vince is talking to the King, and he's rattling off all these different people that are going to be in King of the Ring, and he's testing out their names, and he threw out one that I thought was pretty interesting. He said, "What about the name King Mabel?"
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I like what they're doing with Savio and Razor. Razor's kind of giving him the rub.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. They were kind of like playing on looking at each other, looking at Mike Bell, then looking at each other like, this piece of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I like that.
But Mike Bell did have a little bit too much weight to him for Razor to want to do the Razor's Edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't quite confident enough to get him up there.
No, he wasn't.
I do agree, Joe. The little interplay between Razor and Savio Vega was really good. Just the little shrugs and...
But let's talk about Razor's exit down the ramp and what happens next.
Oh, yes. So, post-match. That's what we'll call this segment. Post-match. Bret Hart pushes past Razor as Razor is exiting. This wasn't any kind of a heat-seeking maneuver. He wasn't trying to get in Razor's way or anything. It's just Bret Hart was a man on a mission, if you'll forgive that. He was headed down to ringside and was not having any shit, period, because Bret Hart is here to have a word with the King, as in Jerry the King Lawler. Huge crowd pops for the Hitman, and I don't really think it's an understatement to say that Bret the Hitman Hart proceeds to tear Jerry Lawler a new asshole.
Yeah, to put it lightly.
The Hitman calls Lawler worthless scum, a parasite maggot, among other things. This is the kind of promo that I love from Bret Hart. Unfortunately, however, the point of this is that the Hitman is trying to get Jerry Lawler back in the ring with the Hitman. Bret even offers any stipulations that the King wants in order to have one more match. Bret goes on to call the King lower than shit, I think. And I'm not saying that like figuratively or whatever. They bleep him out, because he says lower than shit. But things get hot here as the Fit Man physically starts digging into the King. I mean, I was hoping to save some of the details of this for our discussion here, but suffice it to say, this was an absolutely red-hot promo all over for me. This does work for me, brother. Ryan, please, what did you think of this?
I completely agree. I mean, that line, "You worthless little scum, how did I lose to you?" This is the type of shit we have not seen out of Bret Hart come to date, and this is phenomenal. It was amazing in the matter of a week. We were just talking about how annoyed we were with this feud and this storyline before In Your House, and I'm actually enjoying it here. Bret Hart does such a great job of showing his frustration and anger towards the King here that all of a sudden I care about this. You know what I mean? Out of nowhere, this feud matters to me because of Bret Hart. I loved it.
Yeah, I agree. My favorite version of Bret Hart is always, the heel Bret Hart. And this is, we see a little bit of that. It's amazing. It was weird. It was out of nowhere. It didn't look like it was rehearsed at all. It looked genuine and awesome.
Yeah.
And the King was selling it great too. His just kind of whoa, what do you mean face?
Yeah.
And,
didn't want anything to do with him. And Vince did a nice job too. Bret, calm down. Bret, calm down. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, Joe, because the main players here obviously are Bret Hart and Jerry Lawler, but kind of the unsung person that really makes this come together and really sells this scenario was Vince McMahon. You're spot on with that, because whenever I was watching it, there's the usual verbal banter, Bret Hart standing there looking down on the King sitting at commentary, but then by the end of it, Bret Hart walks around the table, and I mean, it was kind of hard to tell because of just the clusterfuck of action that it became, but it kind of seemed like Bret Hart had one hand around Jerry the King Lawler's throat, and with the other one was shoving the microphone and trying to get an answer and a response for this challenge out of the King. And the way that Vince McMahon was reacting to all of this, obviously intellectually in the back of our minds, we know it's all a work. But for me, this is what got me engaged. I was on the edge of my seat holy shit, it feels like, I know in the back of my mind, but it feels like he's about to fucking kill this guy.
It's just a perfect example of what a great wrestler and storyteller can do to a shit storyline.
Yes.
Yeah.
You put someone like Bret Hart in there and you just give him a few weeks to let this story kind of simmer, and all of a sudden I care about something that I was actually annoyed with just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and props to them for doing the unannounced, he comes out unannounced, no music, none of that stuff. So I think that kind of helped. I think that helped the whole situation, just out of nowhere.
I have to admit, though, I was really surprised at Bret Hart saying shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that this was pre-recorded, so plenty of time to edit that out and, all that stuff. I know that there's not a legit concern for censorship, but just the fact that he would go there at all in PG era, let's make cartoons for the kids, WWF, he actually cussed.
Yeah, I mean, the live crowd heard it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, it was supposed to just help underline just how angry he is, that he would actually curse.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah, I don't know that I can really agree with you about caring about this feud quite yet. I'm definitely not as down on it as I was before.
Yeah, I mean, I guess all I'm saying is this segment I was involved in and committed to.
Yeah.
So, props to them for that.
Yeah, I can absolutely with certainty say that I am up on Bret Hart after this.
Mm-hmm.
That was fucking amazing. Well, gentlemen, Bret Hart's ringside shenanigans there will take us into our next match. Hunter Hearst Helmsley defeats John Crystal by pinfall in 3 minutes and 10 seconds. And John Crystal is our Jobber of the Week. Take it, Ryan.
Thank you, Jason. John Crystal is this week's jobber. There's wasn't a ton of great stories about John, or, nothing like that, but there was some information. John Crystal was born on December 13th, 1974 in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Over his career, John has used the ring names Johnny Handsome, Johnny Crystal with a K, and John Crystal. Crystal was trained by Leo Burke and made his debut on May 1st, 1993 for the promotion WWA in a loss to a tag team of Chris Evans and Chris Candido.
Oh, how about that?
Someone new to our show, so a little tie-in there. Crystal did not spend much time in the business before starting to wrestle for the WWF. His first match was a loss to Bam Bam Bigelow on November 29th, 1993. Throughout the mid-90s, Crystal would job out for the WWF and WCW, while also wrestling for a number of small indie promotions, even picking up 2 tag team belts in 95, one for the Universal Superstars of America and another for the MEWF out of Baltimore. Crystal's final match in the WWF took place on September 24th, 1996, losing in a squash match to Vader. After leaving the WWF, Crystal continued to wrestle in a ton of small promotions, mainly with NWA New Jersey in the late 90s, the ASW out of England throughout the early 2000s, and finally, the PWA based in his hometown of Edmonton, Canada, where he would wrestle until his retirement on January 8th, 2011, after being defeated by Scotty Putty. John Crystal ended his wrestling career with 34 wins, 11 draws, and 83 losses.
Scotty Putty, when you said that, I immediately thought of Seinfeld.
Putty.
Well, first of all, thank you, Ryan, for that. Illuminating as always. I might be requesting that you call me Jason Handsome from now on. Just so you know.
I mean, you may request it, but
We're going to need to change all of our promotional material.
We'll call you the Caribbean legend.
Well, so getting back to the match, guys, this is Hunter Hearst Helmsley that I remember as a kid. This match was a major nostalgia moment for me. It took me back, and it took me back hard. I was sucked into this. The way that Hunter just continued to carry himself throughout the match, nonstop from start to finish, just oozed arrogance. Just a great example, the cocky slap to John Crystal, just flat out amazing. I think during this match, Hunter might have confused which side of the ring the hard camera was on. There were a few gestures and behaviors, and a couple of times with the way that he positioned himself during moves kind of indicated to me that he was unsure of which side the hard camera was on. A lot of times he was facing the wrong side. But all in all, my God, this match was great. Not so much because of the action in the ring, which, don't get me wrong, again, the action in the ring was not bad. But what made this great was because Hunter maintained and sold the gimmick so well. Even after winning, the slow, graceful way he brushed back his hair out of his face, perfectly snobby in every way, shape, and form. Joseph, what did you think of our Raw in-ring debut of Hunter Hearst Helmsley?
I thought it was great to see it because it's something I remember slightly, and you see old clips, just clips. So it's nice to see his debut as a full match. And I'm glad you mentioned the cocky arrogance because it kind of reminds me a little bit of a Rick Martel type of a gimmick.
Oh, yeah.
But obviously a little more overblown. Like he's really, like you said, he's really selling this gimmick like big time. I forgot about the ribbon in the hair too.
Yeah.
But man, when this match started, I immediately said, holy shit, these jobbers are getting slapped so fucking hard tonight. Oh man, it was rough. Poor Johnny Handsome. Also used the diamond cutter. I remember hearing a story, like DDP loves telling stories. He loves hearing himself talk too, but I remember hearing him tell a story somewhere about how, I guess this was right about the time that he was training to be a wrestler. And him and Triple H trained together when Triple H was still in WCW. And I guess like he started using the move and DDP had to call him and said, hey, do you mind not using the Diamond Cutter anymore? And I guess Triple H was like, yeah, man, no problem. And he started using the pedigree.
Oh.
So I'm curious to see like if he's going to keep using this or when we're going to see the pedigree.
When the transfer is going to be.
Yeah, but I thought this was great. Yeah.
Yeah, agreement. I mean, like you said, the nostalgia on this match was just couldn't be ignored, and it could be argued that it's all rose-colored glasses because of that, but I love this match. You know, he was up against this just goofy looking John Crystal, who he looked like they went and just found some local guy at a gym and put some high school wrestling singlet on him. I mean, he just kind of a goofy looking guy, especially for someone going by the name Johnny Handsome. But just thrilled to see Hunter Hearst Helmsley out there, and there's no other way to put it. That just cocky everything about him, that cocky strut with the arm behind his back.
Yes.
And that bow, all I could think of is the bad guy, the villain in The Patriot. That's what his shtick was reminding me of here. Just pulling it off fantastically. And the ring work wasn't bad here either by either John Crystal or Triple H. Nothing fantastic, but nothing sloppy either. No botched moves. It was a very solid match in that respect. One of my favorite parts, though, is after some move Triple H does, he does that fancy bow to the crowd, and he gets such a great reaction out of the crowd, man. He gets a nice loud boo. So props to him. First match out there, and he's drawing some great heat. Yeah, it was definitely just a simple squats match, but again, another great enhancement match. I think it did its job, and I absolutely love the debut of Hunter Hearst Helmsley here.
Yeah, I completely agree with both you guys on all of this here. Fantastic debut, fantastic match. Not a match of the year candidate by any means, especially considering some of the debut matches we've had from our superstars here in 95. This is at the top of the pack at the very least. One thing that I will say that I'm looking forward to in the future, and I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but at one point, whenever he just really is full bore into this gimmick, whenever he's in the ring wrestling, whenever he gets, let's say, for example, somebody splashes him in the corner, and after he recovers, he just like disgustingly wipes and tries to brush the sweat of the opponent off of himself with just this completely disgusted look on his, just makes you want to just reach through the screen and fucking slap him. Good stuff. I can't wait to see that. I'm really, really happy that we got to Hunter Hearst Helmsley here, because it really feels like the turning of an era. Now that we're getting to these people that we know so well, Triple H especially,
And do you remember who trained Triple H?
Oh, that was
Killer Kowalski.
Yeah.
But his actual trainer at the Killer Kowalski school was former Jobber of the Week, Timmy McNeely.
Oh, yeah.
That poor soul, Timmy, getting the glasses snapped in his face.
The Graduate.
Yeah. The Graduate. Well, the other thing that's with him is like, what a difference between someone like him coming in and like all this other bullshit like Mantar and MMR and all these other clowns.
Yeah.
Well, and this gimmick works too.
Yeah.
It's not so stupid that it's not unbelievable.
But just everything about him, his look, his abilities, like, I mean, come on. It's
from
like,
top to bottom, everything about him is superior to those pieces of garbage.
Well, that brings up a really good point, though, because it doesn't seem like what suggests to you guys what will work and what won't. So you laid down some great examples there. Mantar, okay? Duke the Dumpster Droese. You've got a mythical Greek creature and a garbage man. But then we've also had The Undertaker for a couple years now. And it takes a huge suspension of disbelief to imagine that an Undertaker out of Death Valley just decided one day to stop embalming corpses and wrestle.
No doubt. I think a big difference there is The Undertaker, his entire persona has a very cool factor to it, a giant cool factor. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, he just has the it factor.
well, I mean, it's creepy. It's Halloween-like, it's scary. What's scary about a garbage man? Who cares about a mantar? You know what I mean? Like, these things are just stupid and kind of just no one cares about, where the Undertaker's thing is kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, those are all great points. I was just curious as to what I would hear from you guys on that, because it seems like, if we're going just by pure logic, it seems like a blue blood from the Hamptons or wherever the hell Triple H is supposed to be from, a blue blood rich kid, spoiled, pompous, arrogant fuck like him, is just as likely to wind up in a wrestling ring as an Undertaker, of all people. Or a garbage man, for that matter. Or the son of Greek King Minos and a bull. So just curious. I'm glad we chatted that up real quick, because it's something that has been kind of kicking around in my mind. Despite how much we love these guys, they are still cartoon gimmicks. The Undertaker and Triple H. They are still cartoonish personas, and yet we love them anyway, despite hating of the vast majority of the other cartoonish personas. It's interesting to me that what works and what doesn't. I think it was Joe just now that said they have it. Whatever it is, they have it.
I think that's a big point that can't go ignored. It comes down to the wrestler too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you could have someone like Kama, who he's a great wrestler, but he just can't overcome that gimmick. You know what I mean? The Kama gimmick is going to be tough to overcome, but you have someone like The Undertaker and Triple H, and they are just so great that I don't think it really mattered what you threw at them. They were going to excel at it.
Yeah. They connect to the crowd,
Mm-hmm.
They want a guy like Adam Bomb to have the it factor, but he doesn't.
Right. He has the shit factor.
Yeah.
The shit factor. Yes.
Lower than shit.
We've added a new phrase to the lexicon here. We're going to move it along and talk about something else next that certainly has the shit factor. This is going to be an update on the Bob Backlund for President campaign. Backlund is sitting at IRS's tax desk. The background is covered with election and campaign materials, such as yard signs and the like. Backlund is going to launch into, I guess you could call this a version of a stump speech, and he is going to list his positions. This is Backlund's platform. It's somewhat the same format as LT's stuff from back before WrestleMania, where there's going to be a graphic flashed on the screen with a word, and then Backlund is going to discuss that word. Backlund's position on education is that everybody needs to have a job and buy a dictionary. Backlund's position on reading is that everyone needs to read at least one classic American novel each week. His position on writing is that he wants to abolish spell check, which blew my mind that spell check even existed in 1995. I couldn't remember if that was a thing or not, but apparently. On arithmetic, Backlund will get rid of calculators, citing the fact that a computer society is a defunct society mentally. On summer vacations, our people are illiterate. The Japanese have 100% literacy, apparently, and so kids will go to school 12 months a year with no summer vacations. This ends with a disclaimer that Backlund's views are not those of the WWF. Next, we're going to move it to a very lackluster exchange between Ted DiBiase and King Kong Bundy backstage, and then we cut to commercial afterwards. It's not even worth mentioning what they talked about because it involved King Kong Bundy and therefore had the shit factor. I love that new phrase. I can't.
You're welcome.
I can't deny it. Yeah, thank you. When we come back from commercial, we're going to go to Orlando, Florida. Oh boy, where Stephanie Wyand is there and about to hand the house keys over to Matt Pomposelli and his parents. Stephanie Wyand is up this kid's ass. ambushing him as soon as he gets out of the limo with a bunch of WWF swag. Stephanie YN then completely ditches the Pomposelli parents to give Matt a guided tour of the house. Stephanie is beginning to look and act more and more like Todd Pettingzoo. It's disturbing.
It's rubbing off on her.
And I notice this as she leads Matt deeper into the bowels of the Florida home, only to open a door and encounter the bushwhackers. How terrifying is this home tour going to be? The amount of hanging all over this kid that Stephanie Wyand is doing is nothing short of concerning. Thankfully, this ends after Stephanie takes Matt out to show him the pool, crawling all over this kid the whole time. And then we get a view of the family waving in the driveway as the limo carts Stephanie Wyand out of there. Joe, I'm going to start with you on this one. What did you think of the Backlund promo, the brief interlude with King Kong Bundy, and then the ghoulish grooming of an 11-year-old by Stephanie Gladhands Wyand?
Well, Bob Backlund's ears are gigantic. I noticed that.
They are.
They have the graphic up there as considering running for president.
I wonder if that's a legal thing.
I don't know. I agree with him with schools going 12 months out of the year. I think they should. But
Jesus. Kids will graduate when they're 12, man. What's wrong with you?
No, just longer years.
Well, the kids in Japan graduate when they're 12.
Yeah.
100% literacy.
Stephanie YN needs to get off my TV. She's awful. She's horrible. The bushwhackers scared the shit out of me. I can't imagine poor Matt having to open that fucking door. This was awful. Like you said, she's acting more and more like Todd Pettingzoo, but probably worse in my opinion.
This is going to come as a shock, but I think this may have been one of the best Bob Backlund segments we've seen since Nikki Turturro.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean that genuinely. Like, I don't know, just when he's out there in the ring trying to do his promos, like just off the top of his head, he just goes way overboard. But this was actually kind of funny.
This is a better setting for him.
This was a much better setting. Just his lines that he was delivering were actually hitting a little bit with me. That, his whole talking about wanting to get rid of the spell check and the calculators and summer vacation. I mean, it was actually an enjoyable and somewhat comical segment out of Bob Backlund. So, hey, way to go for them. They shocked me with that. But the stuff with Stephanie YN in the house, that's staying right where it's been for quite a while, is just annoying as all hell.
It just will never end.
Yeah, and you hit it on the head, Bartlett. She is turning into Pettingzoo Jr. here. It's sad, and I feel sorry for her soul, her poor soul.
She's damned. Is that what you're saying? that her soul is so corrupted by Todd Pettingzoo that she's damned.
I could put it no other way. I did get a kick out of at the end, though, seeing the happy family at their house, knowing that they are going to soon sell it for this kid's college education. So I got a laugh out of that.
Yeah. I mean, I tried to make it clear in my little breakdown there what I thought of all of this. Although I will say that I'm not up on it, but I'm not down on it either. The Backlund promo. I'm glad that you, Ryan, were able to see a bit of what I'm talking about whenever I have the positive, nostalgic memories.
That was not a bad commercial there. Yeah.
Yeah. And you did hit it just right on the head with whenever he's kind of freeballing it out in the ring. It's too much because he doesn't have a script in front of him. But whenever they plan this out, it can get fairly entertaining. So I look forward to going forward with this and finding out, just how much of an asshole I am for remembering it fondly. So far, we've got a tick on the corner for Bob Backlund. Score 1 for Bob Backlund.
Well, I'd say it's 50-50 because last week the announcement was bad.
Yeah, but as you said, I mean, he was off script and in the ring.
I'm just saying, right now, I'd say it's 1 for 1.
Okay, you know what? Fair enough. You're right. We'll keep it 1-1. You know what? Let me grab my Post-it note here. We're gonna keep a running score.
We should also track down Matt Pompicelli and get him on the show. And,
Yeah, because he's got to be probably right around our age, right?
yeah, ask him all about that scene with the bushwhackers.
Yeah. It would be great to get a hold of him just to ask him about his entire experience dealing with this.
Yeah.
He'll probably want at least $400,000 to appear.
Yeah, he's used to winning stuff.
Yeah.
Well, $400,000 is the going cost of shipping a shirt, from what I hear. So maybe that'll cover it. Anyway, well, guys, Stephanie Wyand lowered our expectations enough now that we can go into our next match. The Allied Powers, Lex Luger, and the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, defeat Tony DeVito and Bill Payne by pinfall in 2 minutes and 56 seconds. Just real quick, guys, a question. Have I ever mentioned before that I am not a fan of Lex Luger?
This is totally new to me.
Yeah, I'm shocked.
Hopefully, I won't piss on this too much.
One of the all-time greats.
As the match gets started, we get a quick picture-in-picture where the Bulldog on the Action Zone apparently got Mabel up onto the Bulldog's shoulders for a backdrop. I'm not a weightlifting guy, but I know that's a particular kind of thing. Was that like the equivalent of like a standing deadlift, Ryan? Could you tell us?
He had him on his shoulders, so I'd say it was a little closer to a squat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A deadlift, you're not really using your legs too much, right?
Actually, you are, but it's a little bit different of a motion. A deadlift is more picking something up type of a pull.
I see.
Where what he did was closer to a squat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just to briefly describe it, Mabel was standing flat-footed in the corner with his hands up on the top rope. The Bulldog had his head facing Mabel between Mabel's knees, and from that position, the Bulldog stood upright, lifting Mabel up onto his shoulders. Fucking impressive. I mean, my God, guys.
Yeah.
Mabel's fat ass up like that.
I think Vince mentioned he was 800 pounds here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The weights always go up.
Thanksgiving Day parade, Mabel.
The reason I bring that up, not only because it was so impressive, legitimately impressive. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. That was a fucking feat of strength right there. It was the most impressive thing about this match, something that happened on Action Zone. Back in the match, the crowd starts chanting USA while the Bulldog is there in the ring. It was pretty annoying since the Bulldog is legitimately the better wrestler of the two. I felt so, like, this moment with the crowd chanting USA while the Bulldog is in the ring just felt like it symbolized this whole Allied Powers thing.
Like, you could just imagine him just face palming, right there. Just,
yeah. And he knows. The Bulldog had to have known that he was the better wrestler between he and Luger.
I'll talk about it.
When Lex gets tagged in for his part of the match, and admittedly, Lex was only in the ring once, so I mark this as one of the better Lex Luger Allied Powers matches. Lex gets tagged in, and of course, we get the usual Luger package, hip toss, armbar. You can set your watch by it, folks. And then he's tagged out. After that, it's over quickly with a power slam from the Bulldog. Thank Friar Ferguson that the Bulldog is there to end this for us. Since we already kind of got there, Ryan, what did you think of this match?
Like you said, if we have to get the Allied Powers and Lex Luger, I guess this is the best we can ask for, right? Because I mean, we do not get much Luger in this match at all. And how this kind of plays into what you were saying is people not thinking Luger's very good. It seems everyone is in on that now because they decide that he is legitimately going to be in there for one move. The Bulldog tags in Luger. Luger comes in, like you said, hip toss, and then armbar. And that is it. That is all we get out of Luger. He then
2 hip tosses.
Wow.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but it was hip toss, armbar.
Armbar. And then that's it. He tags in the Bulldog. The Bulldog comes in. He does that great looking running slam, and he gets the pin. I can't stand the Allied powers and what they reduce the Bulldog to in making him be in this team. But if we're going to be forced to see Luger in a tag match, this is what I want to see. Him in there for 30 seconds max and then get the fuck out.
Yeah, like you said, you could set your watch to it. It's similar, but yet so different from the Owen Hart and Yokozuna pairing.
This Mesomorph should have some stamina. I mean,
Yeah,
the guy's ripped. I mean, he's just shredded, but we don't want to see him. We don't want to see him in action, you know. I don't know. I guess this is just forcing him out, maybe. I mean, he's been lowered to this. He was getting such a huge push, and then now he's the shit factor.
he's getting 3 moves a match.
Yeah. And it's a shame because, you know, you got Bret Hart going, he's feuding with like 3 different people now. Like you could have Bulldog feuding with Hakushi right now, or like someone else. You know what I mean? Yeah. I thought it was funny though that after the match was over, Vince goes to Jerry Lawler. He's like, oh no, here comes Bret Hart. And he was like, just kidding. I was like, holy shit, that's actually hilarious because I kind of bought that for a second.
I did too. I just real quick was like, what? It's happening again?
I know, yeah.
But, you know, Joe, it's funny that you mentioned about Luger not doing anything, because the thing that I noticed about his little formula here, you know, hip toss, armbar, is that by the time he winds up at armbar, he is in the perfect position to be broadside facing the hard camera, and the armbar is just the right move to show off his muscular definition throughout his arms and chest. Have either of you guys noticed that? He uses these arm bars and these hold moves that he sits in to flex for the camera.
I have not been that fixated on his physique, so sorry.
Oh, don't do that.
He's a mesomorph.
Wasn't fixated.
I'm just fucking. No, I haven't noticed it though.
Yeah, I mean, I would never, ever, ever advise anybody to go back and rewatch this match, but
I'm not gonna.
Or any Lex Luger match for that matter. But in the future, again, whenever he hits his formula, he takes the opportunity to flex it up for the camera, almost as if he's trying to remind Vince McMahon, like, yeah, this is why you got me here. Don't you want to give me the belt? No, Lex.
Give me some of that Ica Pro.
Yeah. Pump it into my veins.
I would, I wouldn't like to see, but it would be interesting to see a glimpse into an alternate reality where he was given the belt.
Oh my God, everybody's wearing the black goatees like Crush and just the mirror universe. Well, let's not dwell on that too much.
We don't want to be sued.
Yeah.
for traumatic experiences.
Well, we're going to move it to earlier that afternoon. It was the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, all along. And in this case, he was behind the very sad and unfortunate vision of Bam Bam in a flaming vinyl crest, putting over Diesel in the most disgusting way possible last week on Raw. The whole thing here was terrible. The most amount of new information we get here is that the tag matchup that was teased last week, that being Bam Bam and Diesel versus Tatanka and Sid, will happen eventually in the future. It's all but assured that will be happening. We just don't have a firm date yet. We're going to have Kama in action soon, as well as Shawn Michaels and King Kong Bundy. But here's a promo first, though, and it lets us know that next week on Monday Night Raw, Double J Jeff Jarrett will meet The Undertaker in a King of the Ring qualifying match. Before we move on, just briefly, guys, Joe first, what do you think is the potential for these matches, those being the Diesel-Bigelow tag match and the Undertaker-Jarrett match?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not going to answer your question, but I will comment on those. I still can't get over how terrible Bam Bam's new look is. I couldn't get over it. The whole time they were showing it again, I'm just like, holy shit, is that bad? And
he looks like a flower.
Yeah, with like the pyro
King
shit.
Koopa or something.
Yeah. Undertaker versus Double J. Like, I wonder, like, how the fuck did they go with Mabel when you got guys like Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Double J? Like, are we supposed to believe that Mabel could actually win that?
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Starting off with the Bam Bam Diesel tag match, not really looking forward to that match at all. Especially after seeing the Sid Diesel match, there's really only one person in that match that I think, or at least I know, could consistently put together a good match, and that's Bam Bam. So that worries me a little bit. The Undertaker Double J match, though, that looks great. This is a matchup that I don't remember ever seeing, to be honest with you. So I'm really looking forward to see what these two greats, really, at this point, to look back on what these two greats are able to do with each other. So I think that's pretty exciting.
And when's the last time we saw The Undertaker?
Oh, it's been forever.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Undertaker Jarrett. It has all of the ingredients to be a good match. I'll put it that way. I will reserve judgment on it because who knows? There's a pretty fair size difference between the two, but I think that they are both good enough workers to be able to overcome that. But stylistically, I don't know, Jarrett's kind of more of a technical guy, Taker's more of a brawler. We'll see. I'm not saying that it's going to be bad by any means, but I have just enough wariness.
Do you think it'll be better than Undertaker's match with King Kong Bundy?
Yeah, that's a no-brainer, Joe. Come on. Like, you'd have to be brain dead to think
that was a WrestleMania match.
That is true. And as far as the Diesel Bigelow tag match goes, I mean, that has to be the bottom of the barrel for Bigelow pussing out for Diesel, right? I mean,
well, yeah.
It can't get any worse than that, can it? Right? I mean,
a real man.
Well, we're going to head now to our next match. Kama defeats Barry Horowitz by submission in 2 minutes and 21 seconds. Barry Horowitz gives us a good pat on the back as we get this match going. As the match continues, Barry Horowitz also uses the back pat to psych himself up and rile up the crowd too. It really baffles me why this guy isn't the Intercontinental fucking champion. He deserves it. And I don't know why. So please, I can't, I really, really racked my brain over this. I can't think of a good explanation. Kama's shin guards bothered the hell out of me. I don't know why. I mean, they're legit. It's a thing. You know, MMA fighters wear shin guards and all that. I know it's stupid, but here we are. So anyway, overall though, the match is decent for a jobber match. Kama looked okay. I have no complaints about anything. The biggest thing that I'm up on in this match is that we got to see Barry Horowitz in the ring. So, Ryan, what did you think of this match?
Kind of the ongoing theme here tonight. Another solid jobber match. You know, Kama, he's still out there trying to push this ridiculous gimmick, but as we've mentioned before, he does a really good job when he's actually in the ring. Those body shots that he was throwing, they looked vicious. Even if, you know, Vince is going to spend the whole time just rattling off all the cities that the WWF is going to be going to soon. But I enjoyed this match for what it was. I think at this point, it seems like that Kama Undertaker feud has just died. We're not really talking about it at all anymore. So I thought it was a little bit odd that Kama has moved away from taking on a little bit bigger wrestlers and just going back to jobbers now. And that brings me on to my last point, how sad I am to see that Barry Horowitz is definitely back in the jobber slot after he's basically squashed by Kama here. So I was kind of sad by that, but all in all, a very solid jobber match.
Yeah, I agree with you with the Undertaker thing because I wonder if The Undertaker was maybe injured or something and he was out for a while. Maybe they took a break from it, but I totally forgot that he wears the urn around his neck because it just, who cares? You know, at this point, like,
yeah, that was so long ago.
I mean, the match was okay. It was a squash jobber match. The one leg Boston Crab thing that he was doing as a finisher, was that something that he's used before?
He has, yeah.
Okay. It's kind of, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a shitty finisher, but
especially for a big guy like him, he should do something that looks impressive and, you know, powerful.
Right. But yeah, it's pretty much all I have noted here.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad that you put it that way because you know what would look good on Kama is the torture rack. Rather than Lex using it and they ostentatiously calling it the Rebel Rack as if that fucking sells it. I think Kama could do a good torture rack and actually call it the torture rack and pull it off. I think that would look fantastic. Otherwise, I agree with you guys here. This was a solid jobber match. Nothing to really, you know, write home about, but nothing to complain about either. Kama looked good. Barry Horowitz looked good. It was all good, you know? As to the urn feud or situation, whatever you call it, I was only reminded of it, and it's not because anybody said anything. Commentary did not really note it that I can remember. I certainly didn't note it in my notes, but there was a split second at the beginning of the match where Kama was taking off the chains that used to be the urn and kind of held them up for like a half a second, like in reverence, you know, before handing them off to Ted DiBiase to hold during the match. And that's the one and only time that I was reminded that supposedly these chains are the Undertaker's urn. So I don't know what's going on with all that. They haven't talked about it in weeks now, so who the fuck knows? But, yeah, guess what's next? Todd Pettingzoo with a WWF Hall of Fame update. The Hall of Fame banquet will happen before the King of the Ring this year. In the weeks to come, leading up to the event, we're going to be highlighting the honorees. And this week, it's going to be Antonino Rocca. Roca or Rocca. I don't know which. Not really a whole lot that Pettingzoo goes into details here. Antonino Rocca was a wrestler in the 70s for the WWF, Vince Sr., and went on to become a sportscaster afterwards. So, but hold on here, guys. We cannot be bothered with the career of soon-to-be Hall of Famer Antonino Rocca. Forget all of that bullshit. We've got Barry fucking Dudensky here. And this time, for our eyes, it's a Shawn Michaels all-over shirt. You guessed it, folks. It's called an all-over shirt because the printing is all over. Barry Dudensky does a very good job of pointing that fact out to us. One size fits all on that, so unless you're an extra large, you can go fuck yourself. It's going to be too big or too small on you, unless you're an extra large. So that's the subtext here. Barry Dudensky wants you to go fuck yourself if you're not an extra large. Briefly, guys. Joseph first. What do you know about Antonino Rocca? And what did you think about this new Shawn Michaels all-over shirt?
Well, the answer to Antonino is I know nothing about him at all. So
yeah.
I'm not saying he's not worthy of Hall of Fame. I just don't know anything about him. This all-over shirt, I will say that they're going all in on this Shawn Michaels babyface turn, and it's kind of, I'll kind of talk more about that during this next match.
Pretty much the same exact thing here. I know nothing about this guy getting into the Hall of Fame way before my time. And the all-over shirt, same feel I had about the Bret Michaels one. Or, I'm sorry, the Bret Hart one. It's very 90s.
Yeah, agreed on Antonino. I don't know anything about the guy. And as far as the Shawn Michaels shirt goes, the only comment that I can really make on it is that in purely aesthetic terms, I felt that it looked better than the Bret Michaels shirt. Oh, Jesus, the fucking Bret Hart shirt. Now you got me saying it.
Nothing but a good time in that shirt.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Thank you, Joe. But yeah, I mean, it's slightly better, but that's not saying much because, as you said, Ryan, very 90s. Very, very 90s. Well, here we are, guys. The one we've all been waiting for. The last match of the night. Shawn Michaels defeats King Kong Bundy in a King of the Ring qualifier match in 8 minutes. 8 minutes of King Kong Bundy, folks. Notes that I have on this: Bundy is not clicking nearly enough for my taste. And before I can observe him more, we get a view of the current bracket system. So, Ryan, you were right last week when you said that Bob Holly's win just put him in the next bracket down after Mabel. So far in the King of the Ring, Mabel, Bob Holly, and Razor Ramon have all qualified, but none of them have opponents yet. They've only earned their spots in the bracket. So that's the update on the King of the Ring brackets. As we get back to the ring, there's the clicking I was looking for. I was jonesing for it a little bit. Shawn Michaels comes out next. And I have to note, guys, it was really, really good seeing Shawn Michaels coming out by himself. Mm-hmm. No hangers-on, no bodyguard, no blah, 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 just Shawn Michaels doing his thing. And as far as Shawn Michaels doing his thing is concerned, as we've stated here before, Shawn Michaels is 110% balls to the wall. And Bundy is a slow sack of shit that can't even begin to keep up. Michaels does a flying press onto Bundy at the outside from the top turnbuckle, and after landing and going to the ground on top of Bundy, Michaels throws lightning fast punches at Bundy, and rather than selling them, Bundy just goes, I can't help but think Michaels is constantly fucking with Bundy throughout this entire match, intentionally making Bundy look like garbage. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but to me at least, it looked like Michaels was just pissing on Bundy this whole time. Credit where credit is due. As cocky and arrogant as Michaels is being, he is not hesitating to sell for Bundy. He does the bumps. Michaels is taking bumps for Bundy instead of going, Of course, when Bundy gets control of the situation, we're going to sit in a bear hug, and then we're going to sit in a headlock for a while. Just, we get a backstage scene of Bam Bam and Diesel watching the match together. They're both rooting for Shawn because we're all friends here. Michaels lands the super kick on King Kong Bundy and is able to roll Bundy up into the pin for the 3 count. Thank fucking Christ. The match is over. But now, Diesel and Bam Bam are headed out to the ring, and we're going to find out if Diesel and Shawn Michaels are truly the bestest of friends that everybody's been claiming them to be. Bam Bam is here to get everybody over. He's the peacemaker, trying to bring Michaels and Diesel together for a handshake. And it does eventually happen with some kind of special high-five bullshit between the two. And now we can ignore Bam Bam Bigelow. Cut to commercial, and when we return, it's time to wind things down back at ringside. Next week, Psycho Sid will be in action. Also, Hakushi will be in action. One last time, though, we're going to ask Lawler if he'll accept the return match with Bret Hart. We get no answer there. Don't forget, also next week, The Undertaker versus Double J Jeff Jarrett in that King of the Ring qualifier. But wait a goddamn second, we're going to break the mold and defy convention here and end the show with comments from Paul Bearer and The Undertaker. Their promo here was brief, but it was a better ending than virtually every other Raw we've watched so far here in 1995. Joseph, what did you think of the Shawn Michaels match and the way that Raw ended this week?
Well, going back to the beginning, the entrance was good. Like you said, he came out by himself, Shawn Michaels. That was good. He did his little striptease routine, which was, just all out, 100% balls to the wall with all that stuff. Definitely putting on a show, for sure. Like, that was his number one goal here, which, what else are you going to do when you're forced to work with King Kong Bundy? Slapping him in the belly was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was great.
He was really hamming it up big time, Shawn Michaels. Like, this was pretty overblown. Starting out pretty good, but then it got shitty. And I feel like it got shitty because they wanted to make Bundy look like an actual, like, legit opponent for Shawn Michaels, you know? The whole thing with the end with Diesel and Bam Bam, it just looks awkward to me. It's just, it doesn't look genuine. There were some shoot interviews, I guess Bam Bam had a problem with the Click, and that's why he ended up leaving at one point. You could tell, like, you know, Shawn Michaels and Diesel are friends in real life. Just put them together and let Bam Bam kind of do his own thing at this point. It just looks awkward to me. The whole high five and the hugging. Again, it's almost like they don't have to do it. Shawn Michaels is a babyface on his own. If you want to put him with Diesel, that's fine, but, like, he's a babyface on his own. He doesn't need to have all this stuff at the end. And as far as all the other stuff, I mean, like we say every week, it can't end with just a wrestling match. There always has to be some weird shit at the end of the show to close us out.
I'm saying this, and it's 100% in the category that it is all Shawn Michaels. One of the most entertaining Bundy matches I've seen. But it is all 100% because of Shawn Michaels. He comes out here and he is just cranked up to 11 tonight. He is just ridiculous antic after ridiculous antic out of him, and in a good way. He was very entertaining to watch, and to be honest, it just seemed like it was 7 weeks of just bottled up energy out of Shawn Michaels coming out here and just exploding.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame that it had to be with King Kong Bundy, because everything that was wrong with this match was King Kong Bundy. You know, Bartlett, you mentioned, surprisingly, even when King Kong Bundy took over, Shawn Michaels was doing a pretty good job of selling for this piece of shit. I was shocked. Unlike the Undertaker match, I think Shawn Michaels did a better job of getting a better match, not better wrestling out of King Kong Bundy. That's impossible, but he kept the crowd entertained during a Bundy match like I thought was not possible. Again, not going to give King Kong Bundy any credit here, because anytime he was the focal point of the match, it was bad. You know, you got bear hugs and sleeper holds.
And clicking.
Yeah, and clicking. But when Shawn Michaels was in the lead, and that was for a good chunk of this match, it was very entertaining. But I was annoyed by the super best friends backstage watching Diesel and Bam Bam just cheering on their good buddy Shawn Michaels, and then the whole spiel at the end with Bam Bam coming out and playing, "Oh, come on, guys, why don't you just make up?" It was pretty pathetic, and of course, they get a big hug and they make up, you know. How exciting. Friendship for everyone. Friendship for the world. I mean, I didn't like the ending, but as far as Bundy matches go, way to go, Shawn Michaels.
Both of you guys have not said anything about the Undertaker promo there at the end.
Yeah, sorry. As far as the promo went, yeah, breaking the mold, like you said. We end with the most beautiful face in wrestling, so that's pretty goddamn great.
Yeah, it's just a shame that it's with, like, it's comma, you know, like.
And such a short promo. I mean, we didn't get anything too great, but I'll take this over Bundy's fat face at the end any day of the week.
Sure.
Yeah, agreed on that. So this match, this Shawn Michaels King Kong Bundy match, I've been on the record before as not being as up on Shawn Michaels as other people are. I don't quite put him on the pedestal that some people tend to. Don't get me wrong, he is one of the greats of all time, but I don't know that I would necessarily agree with him being in the top 3 like most people tend to put him. But this match, and it's funny because I can see also in this match the arrogance and the cockiness that people attribute to Shawn Michaels. Business insiders that talk about Michaels back then and being like, oh yeah, well, he thought that he was king shit back then. And you can see that in this match, but at the same time, the amount of energy, you cannot deny the amount of just pure fucking energy that Shawn Michaels brought to this match. It had to have been because he knew it was going to be bullshit with Bundy.
Yeah.
That's the only possible explanation for it. And I'm not saying that as like a detractor to Shawn Michaels, like he doesn't bring his A game any other time, because he has. We've seen plenty of matches where Shawn Michaels has brought his A game, but this was like, well, like I said in my notes, he had to bring it up to 110% to make up for the shit fucking wrestling of King Kong Bundy, and he succeeded. He absolutely succeeded. This was the most engaged I've been in a King Kong Bundy match, actually, probably ever. So, yeah, bravo, Shawn Michaels, for this match. Fuck King Kong Bundy, but bravo, Shawn Michaels, for your attempt to bring some kind of entertainment to this fucking turd asshole, King Kong Bundy. Afterwards, again, I'm on record as being a Bam Bam Bigelow fan. But once the handshake happens, we might as well just fucking put a cap in an old Bam Bam's head and drag him off to the alley and toss him in the dumpster, because that's it for Bam Bam. Do you guys think that I'm overstating that in the least bit?
I thought it was over with the new gear. It was over for me right there.
He looked like a pathetic fifth wheel here.
Right.
Yes. That's a great way to put it.
It's probably because he is. Like, he's not friends with those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's probably hard for him to act like he is.
To me, at least, I keep saying this, and Joe, I'm sure you'll point out a way that it will get worse in the future, but to me, this was like the final nail in the coffin for the burial of Bam Bam Bigelow. Like the costume and all that shit started it, and this fucking attempt at, I don't know, like it really reminded me of the stereotype of the peacemaker in the bar. Whenever one friend gets all drunk and starts acting belligerent and talking shit at people, there's that one guy that's like, oh no, he's fine, I'm just gonna get him out of here. How are you? Let me buy you a drink real quick. That was fucking Bam Bam in this. Let's just bring these two together.
It's worse than that. To me, it's just that he's there as basically a cock holster for Diesel.
Yes.
And it's just, it's disgusting.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. And what's funny about that is that I was trying to think of ways to compare this to a two-way blowjob in the ring, and I couldn't do it. But you're right. You're absolutely right. The Undertaker promo at the end, good to see. Nothing to write home about, but 10 times better than the majority of what we get for the ending of Raw throughout 1995 so far. And that's it. This episode is over. We're going to take it to highlights and lowlights. Ryan, please start.
Highlight, I'm going with this whole episode of Raw.
Really?
I thought this was a rare case of everything clicking. We had a lot of great jobber matches.
Including King Kong Bundy.
Yes.
Clicking.
We had a lot of jobber matches, but they were all good enhancement matches with good jobbers. Even people I usually hate, like Bob Backlund and King Kong Bundy, somehow their segments entertain me tonight. And to top it off, Bret Hart is now somehow sold me on this feud with Jerry the King Lawler. So I have no way to put it. It's a great Raw. And because of that, low light, none. No low light.
Oh,
I could nitpick. I could nitpick and go with Petting Zoo or the ending with the super best friends or just King Kong Bundy and himself, but I'm not going to because I had a good time watching this Raw. No low light from me.
That's a first,
yes.
I do believe, for all three of us. Wow.
I'm not going to put it over as much as Ryan just did, but what more could you want out of a regular old Raw in 1995?
Exactly,
you get Razor Ramon, you get Bret Hart, you get Hunter Hearst Helmsley's debut. You get Shawn Michaels returning after months, weeks, whatever of being out. You get an Undertaker promo. I mean, you get all that stuff. So yeah, it's hard to complain about anything. I guess a highlight for me would be the Bret Hart promo. I just love that so much. A low light, if I had to pick, would be the Bushwhackers scaring the living shit out of me.
That is compelling. Both of you guys have made very compelling arguments for all of that. Ryan, I got to hand it to you. As much as it defies convention so far, and Joe, you highlighted it also, this was an excellent episode of Raw. Probably one of the best ones we've seen, not just in, definitely, shit, I would say maybe number one for 1995. Don't hold me to that. We would maybe need to research that first, but in total, since the very first Raw in January of 93, this is absolutely top 5. Would you guys at least maybe agree with that?
If the people out there listening are not watching along with us, this is one to go back and watch, because it's kind of from bell to bell a fun time.
Yeah. All that being said, I can't side with you on Ryan on this. I'm going to meet Joe halfway, though, and I'm going to say that my highlight was that Bret Hart promo. My God. Like I said in my breakdown, red fucking hot. Loved it. That got my blood pumping. I was engaged. Fucking loved it. Good shit there. For my low light, though, it was also very clear what my low light was going to be, and that is the treatment of Bam Bam Bigelow in the final match of the night and all of the shit going on with him, because I love Bam Bam. And to see this bullshit with him as a cock holster, I mean, God, that's perfect. I mean, we've gotten 2 new phrases tonight. We've got the shit factor and we've got the cock holster. And unfortunately, Bam Bam as the cock holster here.
He's both now at this point.
It doesn't work for me, brother. So that's going to be my low light. It has to be repeated. This was a great episode, all in all. Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news for us from on and around May 22nd, 1995?
Yes. Couple notes here about this particular episode, but first, just a couple notes about the business in general. So are you guys aware of the financial struggles that they were going through during this time?
Yes.
Yes.
Removing the water coolers, I think, is a popular rumor. Dave Meltzer claiming that there was a lengthy team meeting that Vince McMahon held with the wrestlers on May 18th, giving an upbeat speech informing them of the current financial condition and saying that there was already signs of a turnaround. But looking at the numbers, Titan Sports grossed $83.7 million in 1994. And just to give you an idea of where that stands, they grossed about $186 million in their best year in the late 80s. So, I mean, it has gone lower than half.
Yeah.
You know, it just goes to show how crazy the wrestling business can be. Just total high, then rock bottom low, and then go back up to a all-time high. Pretty interesting stuff. Also, a new drug policy has been enforced, which states that marijuana has been reclassified to the same position as anabolic steroids and cocaine, in that a positive test constitutes a 6-week suspension on the first offense, suspension and rehab on the second offense, and termination on the third offense. And the company has also cracked down on its policy as it pertains to prescription drugs, holding them to the same punishments. So that is probably a lie, because we know that, you know, depending on who you are, if you're Shawn Michaels, it's all right. You can go ahead and keep doing this. Prescription drugs. So, yeah, that's the big news there.
But if you're Matt Osborne...
Yes, you're fired. So, that's the news for the business. Now, as far as this episode, Dave Meltzer, like you, Ryan, he absolutely loved the Bob Backlund for president promo, calling it hilarious. He described the Shawn Michaels versus King Kong Bundy match as about as good as a match with Bundy could possibly be.
Echoing us, exactly.
And yes. So this is strange, and I wanted to ask you guys if you caught something, or maybe if this was edited on the network, but supposedly there was a show in Montreal like 3 days before this Raw, which featured a ladder match with Razor Ramon and Double J, with Razor Ramon winning the Intercontinental belt.
Yeah, they did. I was a little confused.
Did they mention that?
They mentioned it, only the King said something about that Jeff Jarrett lost the belt and won it back, making him the only 3-time Intercontinental champ. But
okay, so props to you, because I totally missed that.
It was very short, yeah.
Well, yeah, you basically just read what Meltzer said about it, that Jarrett won it 2 nights later, and they're saying that it's just acknowledgement that Razor Ramon is now a 3-time Intercontinental champion.
Or Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, Jeff Jarrett, which just seems so bizarre to me, but I'm glad you caught that because I did not.
Neither did I, yeah.
So that was weird, and that is all I have.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. That's it, folks. We're done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can find us on every major social media and podcast subscription platform by searching up the handle Wrasslin Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. While you're there, don't forget to click subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know about the fastest growing wrestling podcast in the world. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on May 29th, 1995, with matches featuring John Snakowski, Men on a Mission, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.